All right, so it's finally that time. I've had the car for a year now, and as you can see, it still looks pretty good. I do wash it most weekends, so I try to keep the car as clean as possible, and I think it looks absolutely amazing. Now, there is no protection film on this except for the little pieces that Honda puts on, but I did ceramic coat this a day after I got the car. So it's been ceramic coated for the entire year. Let me know what you guys think. Now, this video is going to go through a bunch of different things. The first one, since I'm outside the car, I did have kind of a little, I don't know, rock or something fling up and hit the car. And as you can see, I kind of used CA glue and just kind of put it back. And no one has ever noticed that. And I mean, even me, like, if I'm walking up really close to it, I know it's there. But from this angle, not really gonna see it. From a head-on angle, definitely can't see it. You really have to be looking for it to see that. Now, in the front, I did get a few rock chips, and they are so tiny. You can see some there. There's a little guy there. Actually, that might be dirt. But there's a few rock chips on the car. It's done a lot of highway driving. I don't think this car was expensive enough where it really makes sense to PPF the whole car. It would be nice to have that peace of mind, but for the price of it, it really didn't make sense. Now, if you're new to the channel and this is your first video you've seen, I did put 70% window tint on the front with another 5% strip at the top to block out some sun. And then all the way around the rest of the car, the sides are 15%, and then the back is another 5%. And in Florida, I wouldn't say it does that much. It really doesn't help the temperatures inside the car. When I got in to make this video, I still burned my hand on the shifter, and it had only been sitting there a few hours. But what are you gonna do? I mean, I'm hoping that it protects the interior with the UV rejection, and that's really why I did the windshield in every window, just so that I have that peace of mind that I'm not going to fade the dash or the seats or anything like that. Now, I am on my first set of tires, and I actually just had my first tire rotation last week and my first oil change. So I hit my oil change at about 5,550 miles, which I know some people have been getting kind of like 7,000 miles before an oil change. I don't quite know why I was so low on my oil change. I mean, 5,000 kind of seems like a little low, especially when Honda says it's going to be longer on the newer cars. Oil technology's come so far that you can do it less often. And for some reason, I was at 5,550 miles. So I got the oil change done. Now, that was free at Honda, so I didn't have to pay for that. I did have them do an alignment, and I actually had the alignment done this morning. And this wheel and tire have been replaced. So this, actually, after the rotation, this is the rim that had been replaced and tire that's been replaced. And I hit a brick on the road or a pothole or something on the highway, and so I blew out the tire. I cracked the rim, it wouldn't hold air, and it was all wobbly. So thankfully I got the tire protection package. Didn't cost me a penny. The towing was free, but because of the new car, the rim was free, the tire was free, and I did pay to get an alignment, which I shouldn't have done at that dealership. And I don't want to name drop dealerships, but they were an awful dealership to work with, and almost got my claim denied because they wouldn't tell the company where the accident or where the kind of road hazard happened. And so I had to call the third-party company and say, hey, I was on the highway and hit a brick, and that should be covered. And they were like, yeah, it's covered. The dealership just wouldn't tell us what happened. And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. And on top of that, they also didn't balance the wheel. And so I took the car, left the dealership, was driving home on the highway, and this car is so dialed that when something is off, you can feel it right away. And so I knew something was immediately wrong. I called my local Honda dealership and I said, hey, the car's not right. Can you look at it? And right before I brought it over, I'm like, you know what? I wonder if they didn't balance the new wheel and tire. Sure enough, there were no weights on it, which I was like, okay, it's very, very, very rare, but maybe it didn't need any weights. No, it was way out of balance. And so I had them balance this wheel and tire, and it was good to go for a bit. Now, I got the alignment this morning because, going back to my previous statement, when something is wrong with this car, you know immediately. Now, the car is so tight feeling and grippy to the road that I didn't have as much confidence. If you have 100% confidence driving this car, everything's dialed and perfect, you'll feel it. When something is the slightest bit off, you'll notice. And so I took it to the dealership this morning and I said, hey, I need an alignment. First of all, my steering wheel was, according to the page, 17 degrees off. So to go straight, I had to hold the wheel 17 degrees to the left, which I kind of knew. Like, been driving it and I'm like, okay, they did an alignment. The wheel's a little to the left, but it still goes straight. Well, then it started getting really out of whack. And so I had them do an alignment this morning, and this car is now dialed once again. It feels like a brand new car again. So if you have one of these and you're like, oh, this doesn't feel right, I can guarantee you something is not right. Because you know this car, you know how it was when you drove it off the lot. And if it doesn't feel that same way, at least after a year or two, I mean, once you get into the higher ownership years, I mean, of course, things are going to wear and things are going to start to go depending on how hard you are on your car. But for the first year or two, this car should hold up perfectly. And it drives now like the day I drove it off the lot. It's absolutely fantastic. So as you can see, I'm at 5,570 miles. And if you do the math for that, averaging 20.3 miles per gallon as it says, that averages about $960 for the year of gas if you say that gas is $3.50 a gallon, which is just for kind of a comparison. Places have cheaper gas, places have more expensive gas. I'm just averaging it $3.50, so you can look at around $1,000 for 5,500 miles on this car. And I made a video before saying the downsides of the Type R that car reviewers don't tell you. And that wasn't meant to be a video saying that I hate this car. I absolutely love this car, and I'm not going to be selling it anytime soon. But coming from an SI that got 40 miles per gallon, I thought I was going to average 28 or so because I do mostly highway driving. And that wasn't the case at all. I'm averaging 20.3 over all those miles. Now, if I go to like my tank, I know I just filled up. Yeah, I've only done 26.9 miles, but I'm averaging 20.2. My last tank that I was doing, I averaged 18.9. This car is just such a blast to drive that when you can, you give it a little more gas than you probably need to, just to feel the acceleration, just to let the car breathe a little bit. It's what it's meant for. So I absolutely love this car. That video was in no way me saying I hate this car and I should get something else. It was just things that I wish I had known going into it, because all cars have pros and cons. And I wasn't aware of any cons in this car. And they're not cons that if I had known, I wouldn't have gotten the car. I still would have gotten this car. It's just things that I thought people should know that I've seen a bunch of reviewers say all the good things about this car. But if you're buying this car, there's still some practicality to it. And for some, 20 miles per gallon may be a deal breaker. For me, it's not. I don't care. This car is so much fun to drive. But for someone else, it may be a deal breaker. So I made that video, and people could take the information how they want. It wasn't me trashing this car and saying that I wanted to get something else. So I just want to clear that up. So I really baby this car. I don't follow closely behind trucks. I don't drive it aggressively. I floor it here and there. I give it some gas, a little more than it needs sometimes. But I absolutely love this car. It's 1 year down, and I'm going to have it for a few more years. And I am so excited about that.